Hello everyone. I want to talk about the Stonewall in special situations that may come up in your games that we haven't talked about yet. So as you know, in the Stonewall, we pretty much get an easy setup for our pieces where we can get just about every piece set up involved in the game, and then we start our attack with knight e5 along with g4, and then we got a great game because the king is castled over here. Two of the most important squares in the Stonewall is e5, where we put our knight, and d3, where we put our bishop. Most of the time when black is playing against white in the Stonewall, there's not a huge fight for, black is not fighting for e5 or d3. But there are situations where they do try to get an early fight for those squares, and we have to know how to deal with those situations. When they do, we can't do the normal things that we do in the Stonewall. We have to adapt. We have to change based on what black is playing. And I'll show you a few examples. Let's talk about the fight for d3. In this situation, we go our normal d4, they go d5. We do e3 with the idea of playing bishop to d3. But what if they do this? And now they're fighting for d3. Well, it's simple. You can't let them have this diagonal. We want it. So we put bishop here. Even if it means to exchange the bishops, that's fine. But they can't have this diagonal. This is our diagonal. So let's say we take with queen, and then we just develop. You could do f4. You could do knight here, and then let's castle, and then just play normally. Okay. That's the first situation for d3. The second situation would be d4, knight f6, d3. Let's say they do knight e4, which is kind of a wasteful move. They've already moved the knight twice, haven't moved anything else. What I normally do is f3 to kick the knight out, and then I could bring bishop here and I'm fine. We don't want a situation where they're doing this, we're doing this, and now they have a pawn that they can anchor the knight with. We don't want them to do that. If they did that, I would take anyway and have pawn take. But if they come here and there's no pawn anchoring them, let's just kick them out. They go here, we go here, and then we just continue normally. We may later try this and push this, and then now we have our normal setup. Okay? So that's the fight for d3. Now let's talk about fight for e5, which could happen. So the fight for e5 may happen like this: d4, and then automatically e5. Now they're sacrificing a pawn early on. I have many people do this to me. If they play e5, you have to take. So just take it. Now you have a free pawn. Okay? Then they'll follow up with knight c6, attacking your pawn. Don't try to save it. Don't do f4. Don't do knight to save the pawn. Let them have it because you already have a pawn. So we do that, and then normal development would be here to e3, bishop here, not to d3 because the knight will probably be here. So just quiet moves, good developing moves, castle, and you have a great game. You just play good, fundamental chess. You do tactics, you do pins, you try to take their free pieces, etc. Okay? The next situation for D3, I'm sorry, for knight e5, or for e5, is if we do D4, and if you, whenever you see, I'm going to show you the key. Whenever you see these two moves, you need to pay very close attention. Whenever you see him do knight c6 or d6, or even the e5 that we just saw, that is key to that they are fighting for this square. Knight c6 and d6 are both fighting for e5, and we can't let them, we have to do things a little bit different. We can't let them have this square. So in this situation, we go d4, we do knight c6. Looks like it's an attack on the pawn, but the pawn's protected by the queen. It's more of an attack on this square. They on their next move, they actually want to do this. So they had to do e5 with the knight protecting. They want to take control of this square. We can't let them have it. So what do? We play f4. We're going to play f4 anyway, but we just play a little bit earlier because we can't let them have the square. They can't do this because, you know, we'll just take. So we would do f4 in that situation. They may follow up with d5, e3. And now what if they come again with the bishop to f5 like they did in the previous example? Same thing. We're not going to let them have this diagonal. We're going to fight for it with d3. If they take, we take, and we have a good game. Okay? Now what about this situation? d4, again, knight c6. It's a little bit different. They're fighting for this square. Okay? We know what to do. We do f4. Now they follow up with d6. So they have two people fighting. We have two people fighting for this square. Let's get another person in here. Knight f3. Now we have three people fighting for this square. e5. And now this either loses a pawn or loses his right to castle. So when he does e5, we will take with, I like to take with d because it opens the queens up. Normally we would take with f, but in this situation we have to do things a little bit differently. We take with d. Let's say he takes. Now the queens are showing. We'll take here. If he takes here, he loses his right to castle. So that ain't good. And if he takes with knight, then he simply loses a pawn to knight takes e5. Okay? So that's what we would do in that situation. Again, when he does knight c6 and or d6, we have to start fighting for those squares. We have to start fighting for this. Here's a situation where let's go over that game again and play it out a little bit more. So d4, knight here, he's fighting for this. f4, d6, again fighting for this. Two people fighting for that square. Knight here. e5, we're going to take with the d pawn. Takes. And we'll say he takes with king. Now what we want to do is, we don't want to take this pawn yet. We want this knight to come out, because we have the possibility of pushing if he plays bishop here. So if he plays bishop here, then we can push. He can't take because the knight takes here. So we put the knight here. He attacks the knight. And then we do this. Now our idea is, since the king is on the d file, We're going to open this up, and instead of castling king side, we'll just castle queen side and put the rook on the king. So for example, and this is, for example, if he takes here, you take here, he makes this move, and then we castle here with the check. Now he's got to move the king around, and you have a good attack with the knight and the bishop on this pawn. So you'll win that pawn. Okay? So those are some special situations. I call them Stonewall specials. Go ahead and replay the video. Go over it, over and over again, just so you can have a good idea of what to play when they try to have the e5 or d3 square. Remember, for e5, when they do knight c3 or knight c6 early, and or d6 to fight for this square, we have to again fight. Get these pieces out to fight for this square. Okay? So just rewind the video, play it again, and until you have a good understanding of what you do in special situations, Stonewall specials. Otherwise, we're just doing regular. We're just going to have a good time doing our regular development, right? So this is what they will normally play, right? Maybe here, and we have most of the time we have an easy time developing. I should have castled early. That's okay. So I'll castle early, and normally there's no fight for e5. There's no fight for this diagonal. We get it automatically. So most of your games will look like this, where there's no special fight for e5 by black, no special fight for this diagonal by black, and we're gonna get an easy game, and then we can start launching our attack on this knight, and then we have lines to h7. The queen can come up, the rook lift, the knight can even come over, so we have a lot of good attacking chances here. Thanks.